I think we'll kick things off. We have around 30 people joining in, I think, from all part of the world. So this is pretty awesome to see for our first webinar ever around turning domain expertise into reliable agents. Plus, also, this is our launch week 3. That means we are doing series of launches throughout the week, which will be concluded with a product hunt launch on Friday. So I really appreciate you all joining, and also if you can continue your support throughout the end of the week, that would be awesome. So first, to begin with, I'll hand over to Chuck, CEO and co-founder of Lamatic AI, to take on the stage and share our high-level thesis.
All right. Well, thanks everybody for joining today. I wanted to just really quickly set the stage for Aman, who's going to talk a little bit about our latest release and what it means for you guys. But so our thesis is simple. It's that the world's software is in the process of being completely replaced. It's being replaced by a new software that uses generative AI to collapse workflows and reimagine interfaces in ways that more quickly and simply accomplish our goals. We aren't the only ones that believe this. Andrej Karpathy, famously coined the phrase vibe coding, which he used to describe the first vertical to make this transition, which is software development. Software developers are using software today that has already made the transition to software 3.0 with apps like Cursor, Windsurf, Lovable, and a lot of others. He sort of less famously coined a much less viral phrase in June when he described this general transition to vibey versions of every sort of software out there as software 3.0. Just to kind of bring you up to speed on what this software 3.0 transition is. In software 1.0, highly specialized technicians, which we call developers, needed to write code. That's an obvious bottleneck. As we moved into software 2.0, it kind of reduced the dependence on developers by leveraging neural networks that created algorithms that weren't limited by the skill or creativity of developers. And now, in this transition to software 3.0, the leverage becomes huge, at least theoretically, because there's no longer a developer bottleneck. Anyone can tell an LLM what they want, and at least in theory, the machinery can go do it. So our mission is to make it possible for our customers to make this theoretical world happen and to power this pivot to software 3.0. So architecturally, there's really just two ways to build this type of software. You can either connect directly to these enabling technologies, or you can abstract away some of the complexity by connecting to middleware. The direct connect approach is what I've kind of outlined here on this slide. It's got a unique set of pros and cons. And I would say early in a new technology's life cycle, direct connect is often the only option, simply because there isn't middleware to connect to. We've seen this transition happen before with the web first, with mobile later, and now we believe it's happening with AI, the arrival of middleware that allows teams to focus on their applications. I talk about middleware as though I expect you to know what we're talking about, but with AI, it means very specific things. So this is what we're talking about when we're talking about AI middleware. We need to connect to models, data sources, back-end tools, front-end interfaces, and the infra that makes it all run. So that's the connectivity layer. There's the orchestration layer, which happens prior to runtime to do all the ETL work to get a grounding data right so that your AI can deliver the right answers, not just believable answers. And then there's obviously the orchestration at runtime to make sure that complex flows happen reliably. All of that needs to run somewhere. The middleware needs a platform. And then finally, you need a way to configure all this stuff. So that's AI middleware. So here's what the advantages of using middleware are, and also the disadvantage or the point of failure, which is a third party.
All right, so I think that's a great segue into today's topic. So use your emojis to express how many of you use some kind of vibe coding tool like Cursor or Windsurf or any other vibe coding tool. I want to see some reactions. Okay, awesome. So a lot of people actually. So one thing that really occurred to me, why there is only vibe coding today? Right? Why there is no vibe accounting? Why there is no vibe taxing? Why there is no vibe compliance? You can see on my screen, there is a Cursor screenshots. On left side, it looks exactly like what VS Code was for the last 10 years. No sudden change on that. And then suddenly we added the right side, which is the YB side, which is more fuzzy, more anticipatory, more natural flowing. And also there are some more embedded integrations directly in the traditional software that makes it YB. So just take a time to think yourself, why is that we have vibe coding today and no other vibe application? If you think about it, the answer is that engineers building software for engineers. So you end up with a situation where you have a very, very huge gap and you can't build applications such as this. Imagine QuickBase or any other vibe coding to like any other traditional SaaS software being Vibe. What would really take them to become a Vibe software? On the website, it would still remain the same. You will have the rigid rule-based system, steps, clicky clacky, traditional SaaS onboarding and software. But on the right side, you will have what you have seen already with the Comet browser from Perplexity, where you can easily vibe and interact with the DOM elements. And for any application to do so natively, they have to really, really embrace the user experience and how what are the actions that the user are trying to perform, what are the tasks they are trying to achieve, and convert them into agentic actions. So if you want to build this kind of application today, this is a traditional setup of how people are building agentic applications today, including the names of Cursor and Lovable. So on one side, you can have a tool like Next.js, which is your front-end framework, and you are connected with your backend database, which could be Supabase or any MySQL database. And then what's happening is that you have this another additional API which is basically being connected in your direct application. And whatever agentic applications or agentic routing you need to do, it's happening through this logic. 90% of the developer today are using this combination of Python/LangChain to build this application and then use fast API to serve those requests. This process has drastically improved over the last 2 years. But when I started doing agentic development, my process was using Jupyter notebooks to fine tune prompts and find what is the best prompt, and then pushing into a Flask API into a Next.js application as an API. Raise your hand if you guys have similar setup or kind of a same kind of setup. Maybe you are using Fast API or something else, but it looks somewhat similar. And then you have your vector databases, your OpenAI LLM models kind of connected in here. Now, there is no big problem with that, but the issue is whenever the domain experts wants to contribute any changes, they want to recommend, hey, this application is actually hallucinating and not returning the right results. Going back to our previous example, let's say you are a compliance company. Does the engineers really understand what the compliance rules are? Or is it the domain experts that can tell best how to fine tune that model system? So what is happening today is this expert is giving this prompts manually to the developer who is pushing these changes on their GitHub code or something, and that's how the API is getting updated. So you can see the challenges with this problem. There is lack of integration, native integration to the actual AI system. You are building agentic product, but your actual process of building this is a decade old. And then it's very difficult to scale as well. What if there are 20 domain experts now? What if there are 20 engineers? Who engineers you should talk to? How should you handle an API? How should you manage 20 different agentic features that are in an application? And on the other side, there are problems with the domain expertise as well. The experts don't really have a tooling. Right now, they are using Slack messages, Excel sheets. I've seen people even using like text documents sent over emails to share the prompt and ask their co-founder or the CTO to actually update the prompt. So, and then the problem is like the domain experts is understanding the domain, and you are ending up in a very, very slow cycle of not really innovating fast, and which also leads to technical debt. So the solution, as what Chuck told, there are basically two solutions. One is you can do this directly, which we already saw, or the other one is using AI middleware. And at Lamatic, we call this intelligence middleware, right? So Lamatic is intelligence middleware, which actually really have three main parts. One is the open source SDK, a single API to connect all your agentic workflows, whether you have 50, 60, 70 workflows into a single API, which your developers can easily integrate into your application. A collaborative studio that you can give to your non-technical counterpart or the domain experts or the product managers, and they can easily edit all the prompts and debug them live and then push the changes as they want. And then finally, a serverless edge platform, which helps you scale without the problem of noisy neighbors or provisioning infrastructure. A funny thing that happened, how many of you experienced the Cloudflare outage today morning? So we are completely hosted on Cloudflare. But the funny thing was, none of our API went down. Zero API went down. because our system uses edge distribution. So all your agents, when you deploy them, they get packed into a 5 megabyte small Cloudflare edge bundle and is deployed to all over the world, 180 different Cloudflare locations. So even if 4 or 5 or even the entire network goes down, your request is being routed automatically from the nearest node where your customers is making request. And this is huge. When you are running applications which takes 10, 20 minutes to complete, the difference in 100 milliseconds or a 200 millisecond latency can add up and then cause like a 2 minutes frequency delay. So on an average, our requests are 20% faster just on the latency time. And then the other problem is right now, everybody is routing the request nearest to their EC2 or Docker deployment, wherever they are. So OpenAI server or Perplexity servers picks those requests, even if they have other nodes free, but they will send the request to the nearest geographical location, and then the request slows down if that node is experiencing a lot of time. But Lamatic automatically smartly routes the request to the nearest node from OpenAI or Perplexity and helps you scale very well. There is this document, if you're interested in going deeper into what our architecture is, what are the different layers and components that we pack in. So everything basically that you would otherwise build with yourself with your LangChain, Llama Index kind of configuration. All of that is packed already in Lamatic, and it's highly performant. We call it the core. And when you are hitting deploy button, I'll show you in a second a demo of our platform. This is compressed into a 5 megabyte bundle, JavaScript, TypeScript bundle, and then pushed onto Cloudflare Edge, right? So you don't need to worry about scaling or anything like that. Moving on to next, integrating, and then the whole software development lifecycle with this process also changes a lot. So this is the same as the LC we were talking about before, but with Lamatic. So what's happening right now is that your experts are directly using the Lamatic Studio, which is our cloud-hosted environment to configure agentic flows, prompts, and evals. And then you can connect all your models and everything inside Lamatic itself. So your domain experts come, you can have role-based access control, give them permissions to edit only a certain workflows or a certain level of prompts, and they can easily edit these prompts, push them, and your developer doesn't even need to come inside the cycle. If you still want a CI/CD operation, and we are really excited in the Lamatic 3, we are introducing GitHub controls and version controls. So you can version controls your front-end application and Lamatic simultaneously. But imagine an expert never writing a code, actually pushing something in your agentic sequence, which can be merged and is production ready into your application. And we'll go a little bit deeper into how this process actually works. So this is the entire process. This is very simplified version. We'll go into a version of this when we are seeing the actual walkthrough as well. But what's really happening is that there is this no code UI. We call it the agent builder. And what you can do is that you can drag different nodes. Nodes could be similar to your LangChain node itself, RAG, text generation, JSON generation, document parsing. There are pre-built, I think 30 plus nodes that we have available right now. And then you can organize them into these meaningful processes, right? You have to select a trigger, then you can add your processing nodes. You can arrange the nodes into a logical sequence. You can run them in parallel if you want. If let's say you want to fetch from different sources, you can use MCP directly inside this. So this is your meaningful configuration of your agent logic. And then you can test and debug that inside the product itself. So under the hood, what we are doing is basically we are converting this diagram into a YAML code, a low code. This looks similar to Terraform or GitHub Actions if you have used that. And this is like agent as a code. So the goal is that it's still not, like no code like Zapier or make.com where you have no configuration and no developer control. So there is developer control over there. And this is what is getting committed into your version control. So there is no vendor lock-in. You can export all your projects anytime through Lamatic, and then you can use open source runtime to host these bundles. Then what we are doing is that this is what we are compressing into a 5 megabyte bundle and then deploying over the edge. On the other side, your developer is doing this simple step. This is only a one-time step when you first initiate your application. You can use any of these three methods to integrate to your agentic application. One is webhook. If you are building no-code third-party automations, then you can use webhooks. And then you can use widget, which are easy to plug, 3 lines of code plug-in into your front-end website itself. But the crown jewel of what Lamatic does is the GraphQL API. So this is a single federated API. You don't need to manage different routes and paths. There is a single API to manage all your agentic pathways, even if you have 100 agents through a single API itself. And integrating that into your application is very simple. Right now we have Next.js SDK. So all you need to do is do npm ilamatic, import your Lamatic client, initiate your credentials, so your project ID, your endpoint, your access token, and then from there on, wherever you want to integrate your agent, you can easily do it with one single line of code. Lamatic execute flow, pass the flow ID, pass the payload, and that's it. Like we will automatically fetch the response, populate your DOM, and even better with Next.js, if you have stateful components, you can bind the output of this response directly to your component. So like now you have a stateful agentic component, so you don't need to worry about state management and any of those issues with those platforms. Now, the benefit of this approach is obviously we have established it's much faster. It instantly updates instead of relying on somebody else to push your changes. It's really good at running long running tasks. We have seen our agents run up to 45 minutes or even 60 minutes at times. And you don't need to worry about like HTTP timeout or any like endpoint failure or Flask timeouts and stuff like that. It's highly scalable. Customers can scale from like 10 requests today to like 1 million requests tomorrow because it's entirely serverless and elastic. So no worries on that. It's faster swap as well. You can test out different data, apps, models, and MCP at your choice without really worrying about provisioning and how we should do the integrations and stuff like that. Some of these integrations are one-click integrations, like with Google Drive, Gmail. So you just need to do the OAuth and that's it. And some of these credentials are like developer integrations like Postgres or S3, where you might need to add some more additional developer information into it. Built-in document ETL, as Chuck talked about, this is a very, very underrated scene in overall agentic development. Your agent can perform actions, but when you want to do like fetch 10 terabytes of data from an S3 bucket, that's where it fails because all of the agentic builders right now are trigger or action-based builder. But Lamatic is the only one right now which has built-in data ETL. So that means we can sync from your real-time data sources in real time at any frequency that you want. And then you can choose if you want to have incremental changes or full refresh depending upon your scenarios. And these are multi-tenant as well. That means you can build your SaaS application for 10 banks and none of them will share any of the architecture and will run like parallel data ETL processes. Built-in vector DB and memories. Everybody needs vector DB right now for vector search or RAG, or to even like create facts and memorization for your agents. For that, usually you have to set up your own vector database, which is additional cost and additional overhead. But Lamatic is the only platform right now which provides VB8 vector database built in, highly performant, GraphQL, serverless and scalable, so you don't need to worry about provisioning. Just drop your vector objects directly inside the platform and we'll take care of the rest. So it's really like Firebase for building AI agents, or somebody actually pointed out a couple of days ago Heroku for building AI agents, because we are really like managing the entire end-to-end cycle. And in this update, we are really excited to also share that we are making even these iterations faster by real-time logs, traces, and improving our reports. So the impact of this thing has been really, really phenomenal. In just within 1 year, we have completed 5,000 project deployments all across the world. You can see all the nodes where we have deployed a project. The funny thing is there are sometimes deployment in Hawaii as well. And I wonder what's happening in Hawaii, why people are building agents in Hawaii. But you can see there is a diverse set of users using it across the world. 10x faster development, 38 hours saved per dev sprint. We handled around 7 million plus monthly agent requests at this time, and this is continuously growing. So huge, huge accomplishment. And we continue to see this because I think if you give developers right tools, they can really solve really amazing problem. And that's one of our core things that we want to focus on. So over the course of 1 year, the most important 4 realization we had while building Lamatic and talking with a lot of customers was that the actual benefit and positive sum is in experts collaborating with engineers, not working in silos. So whatever tools help both and satisfy the needs of both experts, domain experts, and engineers or developers, that is going to win. And right now, the tools that you see in the market are heavily domain expert focused. And it and Zapier are very, very no-code, amazing products. I use it myself. But unfortunately, if you want to build your SaaS on top of these applications, very, very hard. Then the tools that engineers love, LangChain, LangGraph, Langsmith, amazing products that you can easily use and build your agent applications, but very, very hard for experts to actually put their input in, create agentic pathways, prompt tune, and those kind of things. Second realization we had is like, there are 10,000 things that you can do with agents, and there are 10,000 ways you can build the same agent. So it's really, really important to define what are the use cases that we want to focus on. And right now, I'll talk about this in a second, that there are 6 main use cases that we are focusing on, that we'll have a strong hold on these 6 use cases. And then after that, you can build whatever you want. But these are the 6 use cases that Lamatic works really, really well. Then simplicity of the tool is of paramount importance. If people are confused, they are much more diluted by the tool itself. They cannot focus on their own workflow or the business problem they are trying to solve. So a lot of focus on the simplicity itself. And then the final fourth one is long-term capability. Everybody is building AI agents, and this is now a bigger truth than any other truth out there, even famous than Mona Lisa, that it's easy to build POC in AI, but hard to build in production. I'm not going to quote it again. But I think the reason why that is happening is because when we are building something in POC, we are really building it with POC tools, right? So when this application actually goes into production, which we thought if it happens, it would be a good problem to have. But when it actually becomes a good problem, you don't have any more customers, because the first customer that uses your agentic application, they don't have a really right user experience, and they won't never use your application again. So thinking about that long-term capability is very, very important. I'm going to take a pause right now, because one of the core theme of this webinar is to have an AMA as you are going through it. So the next segue into our webinar is introducing Lamatic 3. What are the capabilities, where we'll build agents in real time, and then we'll go through the overall features. And this is our massive release. We have been working on this for the last couple of months. So the first thing is like the 6 use cases that I was talking about that we feel are the most important agentic use cases. These might be something that you already know about. The first one is the RAG itself, basically retrieval augmented generation. So we are focusing heavily on how we can make sure that the data ETL process for the RAG is amazing. There are different modes on which you can run these RAG queries, whether it is chat, whether it is generation, or any other kind of application. Then we have internal assistants. These are no-code tools that you can build for an organization, whether it's yours or you just want to white label or create your own assistant. One example is Nemo. They built their a chatbot for sales team over Lamatic. So that was a multi-tenant white label use case. Then we have semantic search. Yes, so this is not really agentic, but I think the theme is here. You have the same vector database records for your documents. So why not build a semantic natural language search as well? This is our really, really heavy production use case. Right now, we are serving around like 3 million requests every month on semantic search alone. Then document processing, whether you want to extract insights from unstructured documents from S3 or Google Drive. This is another amazing use case that we are focusing on. Then deep research. So combining these two things, like let's say you have a lot of documents and you want to provide an internal toolkit or a deep research method. This could be really useful if you're building AI lawyers or AI doctors. You want to get the real answers. You want to run agentic processes to go through and dig through the information. That is possible with our deep research agent kit. And then finally, generative AI, which is traditional text, JSON, and image generation. Whether you are doing a virtual travel itinerary generator or some kind of like plans generator, this kind of use case could be really, really good. So starting with these use cases is really easy. All you have to do is just hit the build now button. This will take you through the sign up process. Let me actually go into the studio. So you go into the template section, and then all the agent kits that you want to use are available over here. So you want to build like a knowledge retrieval chatbot, you can do with this agent kit. Just hit build. And then you can select what your data source could look like. So for example, it could be Google Drive. And then you have to like select your knowledge chatbot. So let's build. And then it's going to ask you to like add credentials, which again, as I said, is a single click OAuth process. Just make sure that this key is unique. And it's going to pop you up for your Gmail account. So that connects your Google Drive connections, and then you can just select what folders you want to access. It could be multimedia, CSV docs, Excel sheets, PDFs, and then we will like select embedding model over here. So now one good thing about Lamatic is it automatically performs tests on those existing applications as well. So we send a small payload and make sure that all the integrations is live. And from here on, you can like easily go through the same steps one by one. And by the end of this process, you will have a complete knowledge chatbot ready. So this is a good segue into like getting into what exactly is new in Lamatic 3.0. So the first thing that you can notice directly is we have added a lot of improvements into the user interface itself, including a dark mode theme. Of course, why not? All developers love it. And then we have also added a vibe build feature with which you can basically explain an agent what you want to build, and then it will give you a step-by-step process how to build it, or it can select an existing template or an agent kit that we have to help you build that very, very easily. Or you can, it can generate the flow YAML yourself, like what we showed you in the previous slides as well. And that will help you deploy production ready agentic workflow in no time. So for example, if you want to build a chatbot with the Google Drive, all we have to do is like add that query, then it goes through the whole vibe building process. Again, this is very, very new, so I hope this really work in the first demo itself.
And while that's running, Aman, let me just interject. I think one of the things, you know, vibe coding tools have been all the rage. I think one of the ways they fall short is if you talk to any developer, they don't ever want to maintain a vibe built piece of software. And so what I think is a little bit different about how we've taken the approach to vibing up agents is you have full control over optimizing, testing, and maintaining the agent that spits out. So I think that's very different. And I think it's going to be how all of the vibe coding tools evolve if they want to, you know, maintain the market.
Awesome. So once you have deployed any agent kit, what it is really doing is it's really deploying these what we call flows, and flows are very similar to agentic workflows, or in LangChain it's called a chain, or in Llama Index it's called a pipe. There are different names for it. We call it flow, and then these are the meaningful sequence of connections that you can build. So we have done a ton of improvements how you organize the flow. So this is looking very familiar to some of the existing products that you might have used, like Notion and Linear. And that is basically the main idea. So as you are developing a lot of agentic features, you might end up like in a situations where you have a lot of prompt chains, or you have a lot of pipes. So now in the Lamatic 3, you can easily organize them by using tags. So you can easily, you know, create different kind of tags and give those tags assignment to them, whether it's like development and staging. And then you can also modify your views, how you want to view these different workflows, whether you want to do it via the trigger, the status, or the tags. So the example that I showed you before, there is already a pre-built, what do you say, workflow for that. And I'm just going to show you in a second what was really happening under the hood. So this is the new flow builder that we have introduced. And what it really does, first of all, in the new onboarding process, we have introduced these sticky notes, which makes it very, very easy. You can leave notes for your non-technical developer domain expert to understand how this flow is working, or even for your team to like easily collaborate and communicate with each other. So going back to the use case that we were just sharing, what's happening here is that we have a Google Drive integration, which is acting like a trigger. And anytime there is like a new file change, it notices it's going to send out the events downstream. So this used to be a little bit unpredictable process before because of the debugging issue or the variable issue. But what we have done in this new release is that we have completely redesigned the whole editor, and we have made it really, really easy for you to test individual nodes and individual connections. So as you can see now, when you test any kind of node, you can easily see the output of the node instantly, and then you can pass the data easily step by step into the other nodes itself as well. Using variables is also very easy now. You can see the state of your variable. If there is a data element inside this variable, it would be shown in the green color. And once you are ready to test the whole workflow, you can easily hit test, and then it's going to show a step-by-step execution of that flow itself. For data nodes, especially using any kind of models, you can also see there is a small nifty features to see the token consumption, input token, output tokens, total token consumed, and the total cost as well over here. So this is just like an easy process to see how your workflow and agent is working. But the interesting part is like when you are actually building any AI applications, and that's where the real kind of magic comes of building agents. So I'm going to change back my view into tags. And then we're going to see an example of a RAG chatbot. So this is what a RAG chatbot looks like. Essentially, it's just a wrapper in which you have a chat widget. So as I talked about before, you can use widgets to integrate Lamatic as well. Another example I wanted to show you was with the multi-agent system. So this one is one of the multi-agent node that we have. In this, you can have a supervisor node. A supervisor is a multi-agent coordinator. You can give it a goal like that. This is your task, and this is the strategy that you have to follow. Then an agent can have multiple branches or pathways that it can take. One, like for example, in this one, what we are doing is that we are giving it an email ID of a lead and also the website of that lead. And what this is going to do is it's going to go to Firecrawl, fetch the data from the Firecrawl from their website, generate an email in JSON format, and then send it to the Gmail itself. So the entire process is very easy. Again, like you can easily test it, and then you can see your agent taking different steps, and you can see what paths they are taking in which orientation. So as you can see, it generated the Firecrawl. And then if I click on the actual node itself, I can, after the whole execution is finished, I'll be able to see what was the exact output that this node actually generated. So looks like the agent is still working on. Okay, so you can see our Firecrawl node extracted a markdown format information about the website. Then the supervisor automatically took this information, sent it to the generate JSON, which is a structured response generator. And then it generated an email, which was sent to our email client itself. You can see that we have defined the email and the output itself as well. And then so you can like really easily see how your agent is taking place and stuff like that. But let's say if you want to change a prompt, doing that is also relatively easy. All you have to do is you can go into the built-in prompt editor itself, and then you can like modify the prompt over here. You can also like test it directly here and then see the output of each prompt itself. So one new thing that we have introduced in Lamatic 3, we call them model logics. So let's say in a situation, let's say OpenAI is down and you want automatically the request to be routed to another model. So in the new Lamatic 3 experiments, you can actually do that. So there is a setting called as fallback. So you can have your configuration A, which is OpenAI, and then configuration B, which could be, let's say, Gemini. And then what this means is like if the request A fails, go automatically to request B, and this will automatically retry it. And you can also choose different situations. So for example, if the request times out, if the agent doesn't respond within like 20 seconds or 30 seconds, then it can go to the fallback model. There are a couple of others experimentation settings as well. For example, retry. This is simply like how many times you want to retry the request before abandoning and calling the whole process failure. And you also have A/B testing, which is my personal favorite. Like you can have two configuration. Let's say you want to test two models in production. You can use the A/B testing node, and then your config A can say 60% or 40%. And then again, like what I showed you before, you can select a config B. And now what's going to happen in production is that it's going to send 60% of request to config A and 60% request on config B. One another additional thing that we have done to the editor itself is now there are different modes in which you can view the same flow in. So let's say you want to see the logs that this flow has seen. So you can go to the logs view. For example, these are all the logs that this workflow has seen. So you can basically simulate what your agent was doing exactly at that time. So if I click on this request, it's going to show me exactly the time this same research comes. So you can see the input request your user made using the widget itself, and what are the different output of each node. So this is really helpful. Let's say your agent actually encountered some kind of error. So let's filter out all the flows that have encountered some error, and it looks like we have a couple of them. So if I click on any of the red one, that means that was a failure. So it's going to show me what are the exact nodes that failed and what was the reason for them failing. And another good thing is that I can just hit the play button, and what this is going to do is it's going to retry the same exact request. Instead of me copying a JSON from some place or another, I can directly replay the same request in this time and see what the response looks like. And in this situation, it looks like the error was fixed, so we don't need to do any other development. But if the error remained, then we can like go back into any request and then fix the workflow for that. You can also, by the way, create test cases. If you this was previously in Lamatic 2 as well, but you can easily create any test case by just hitting the plus button, and then you can store any query like this, so that if you want to reuse the same query again, you can easily do that by putting that over here. So this is a very, very simple query, but your query could be complex, like a complex JSON structure. So this really comes in handy over there. And then the last thing in the studio, in the editor, we have introduced are the reports itself. So it gives you like a very, very high analytics of what your flow is doing, what is the average response rate, how many tokens it has consumed, what was the cost of those total tokens, and analytics like that. Next up, we'll be adding a little bit of more functionality over here. You'll be able to create custom KPIs and custom dashboards based on whatever business problems you are solving, and then you can configure those like that. Another thing, this is like the biggest thing that we have done so far. One of the problem with Lamatic was version controlling itself. So one new update that we have done is now you can connect your Lamatic workflow directly into GitHub. And what that's going to do is it's going to commit all your Lamatic workflows into GitHub itself. And then it's going to use the GitHub branching system itself for you to create different environments, staging, dev, and stuff like that. So the process is really, really easy. Once you have integrated your GitHub integration, the next thing you will do is find the repository, or you can even create a new repository as well, which I'm going to do in this case. And then you can select if it's an open source project, you can keep it non-private. Then we're going to select a branch for the root, and then this allows you to automatically deploy. If let's say there is a commit that you do on the GitHub directly, which is related to Lamatic workflows, it will automatically deploy your Lamatic agent as well. So once we hit update, this is going to set up an environment for us, and it's also going to set up a version history for us, which we'll see in a second. Okay, so now you can see that we have production, which is our main environment. But let's say I really need to make sure that all the releases that go out are really good, and I have a staging and dev environment at my company. I can easily create a new branch, and I can call this staging. Then I can select which branch I want to pull this from.
And while that's running, let me just add, so we have something called role-based permissions within the platform. So what Aman is doing is, obviously a technical role. What's unique, I think, about Lamatic is that there are non-technical roles too, where everybody is collaborating in the same place using an interface that's ideal for them. So I think that's a really important element of Lamatic.
So now you can see we have two branches. One is production and one is staging. You have to refresh it once to see like the same changes. But since we pulled the same branch from there, now you can see there are two updates. And then these technically are two very separate projects. And you can see that even the API endpoint of this project is completely different than the production one. So if you want, you can basically have two environment variables set up for your front-end applications. One, your production is using the Lamatic's production, and then your staging application is using the Lamatic staging as well. So that's a really, really easy way for you to test your changes, have it in development and staging for a while, test those agents, look at the logs, and then go into production when you feel like it. And then let's say, I make a change into the staging environment itself. Let's say on the global search widget, let's make a small change just to see how the version works. So I was gonna do it like anyway. So let's say if we turn the certainty just a little bit higher, so we want a little bit more certain result. So we can easily save it. And obviously always test your flow before pushing it. So I can type a result and I can see the real-time response of my agent. So it looks like there is an issue with this. Let's see what the problem is. Okay, looks like we have not defined a embedding model for some reason for this. Okay, so let's test it one more time. Anyways, why is this? Okay, looks like we turned the certainty a little bit more higher than we need to. But just mimicking, I won't actually merge this, but let's say I go back into my production branch. So I can see there is an option to merge to production. It's going to show me what are the changes that I have done. Again, this is where the low code YAML is very, very handy. So I'm not going to actually merge anything over here today, but you can see it's very, very easy to merge this, and then this will make the changes go live into the production itself. So those are overall the changes. There are small other tweaks as well. If you want to keep up to date to those, we publish our changelog. We are going to publish our changelog every day for the next 7 days, next 5 days during our launch week. So make sure you look into those updates as well. And then lastly, we'll be doing like a summation, a product hunt launch on this Friday. So you are all welcome to join and give us some feedback and reviews on how we can make Lamatic better. Or if you want to try it out, we have made it very, very easy for you to get a demo with Lamatic. So all you have to do is Lamatic AI, and then you can just hit the get demo, answer a few questions. This is, by the way, not AI generated. So this will like lead you to the right person and you can get a demo. So that's pretty much it from my side. We are still open for some questions I can take, and then we can wrap it up. So, all right. So I'm gonna just start looking at my questions over here. Okay, is it similar to N10 but designed specifically for building agentic AI? Thank you so much for asking that question because I wanted to jump into something. So we actually did created a one-on-one comparison guide with N10, and I'm going to actually show that comparison guide to like tell you how it works. Again, I think N10 is a great tool. I personally use it as well, but it's a little bit unpredictable when you are building like production agents in terms of like the pathway. If let's say you don't connect the line really well and stuff like that. So and again, it's not really production reliability. If you have non-domain experts, they delete literally one line and then your whole workflow is not working. But there was a reason why we chose this design is like you can literally lock in users control over what prompts you want them to edit or what prompts you want to pass. So you can easily do that with the flow editor itself. Then we provide a lot of data in terms of monitoring agents, and I think all N10 gives is just like how many requests you are getting and what is the error rate and response time. That's it. So like N10 is like an all Swiss Army knife for building no-code automations, but Lamatic is purposefully built to build agentic automations and agentic workflows. So there is a difference in there. Then in the data ETL itself, if you are running, N10, then all you can do is like pull files. But let's say if you want to build something like when there is a new file, you can't really do that. You have to set up like an extra additional data ETL setup. But in Lamatic, that comes built in. You can even set up your synchronization schedule, how frequently you want to fetch the data and stuff like that. There are other couple of comparisons as well. The most striking one is the deployment approach itself. If you're using the hosted version of N10 on their standard plan on $800, they give you maximum 25 requests at the same time, so 25 concurrent requests. And this is a very, very big problem if you're building SaaS products, but in Lamatic, it's literally infinite. Like you can have as many as requests as you want. And then the operational cost of N10, if you are hosting it on your infrastructure, comes down to something around $4,000 for production use case that I've seen. But in Lamatic, it's as early as $100 a month. And then last, we actually built one tool I will actually make it live on the website right now. So we actually have a tool that does one-click migration and Lamatic in just a second. So I'll share the link as well after the webinar. But all you need to do is, let's say you have an N8N workflow, you can paste the N8N JSON over here. It would convert that JSON into actually, let me go into N8N and let's try it out right now. So use for free. So let's say you get like your own I don't think it copied the actual JSON. Okay, so we have the JSON over here.
That was not a lot of fanfare, Aman, for releasing our Lamatic built migration agent, but this is a big deal.
This is a big deal because like instantly you are paying like $4,000 and then you drop your like it's like 10x cheaper in building the same thing. So here you can download your Lamatic workflow, go on to Studio, paste your workflow, and that's pretty much it. Like it doesn't have like 100% coverage because there are few nodes which are very, very unique to N8N. And we are still working on like making sure that there is a complete one-on-one 100% matching. But you can like get started with this like that. Our goal is to build other migrations as well. You might be using make.com or Zapier. So we are looking into like how we can make it easy for anybody to migrate any other agents from a third-party platform and deploy it on serverless.
We actually built this in response to several customers that came to us after N8N adjusted their pricing in August, which made it wildly more expensive even for the open source version. But obviously it's a lot of work to take your N8N flows and make them into Lamatic. So we used Lamatic to build this migration tool.
Yeah. And there are some additional guides as well for comparison. If you're interested, like you can go onto our website and look for yourself.